Hi everybody, let's begin today's topic. Today's topic is language demands of subject content, guys. So, before conducting this lesson, so we should pay attention key vocabulary. So, as you know, our lesson is CLIL-based math, right? So, according to these lessons, we should pay attention especially technical terms. For example, photosynthesis, evaporation, equator, academic language, and analyzing and classifying and comparing, right? So while learning these technical terms, so we should analyze any kind of scientific theme, classify or compare. So in order to conduct this lesson, our students should know some connectors such as although, however, and because. So, as well as we should explain during the lesson at the same time while explaining the new theme grammar structures. As you know, the most scientific articles and the hypothesis is explained or written in passive voice, right? This theme, in grammatically mostly common in science. For example, water is heated by the sun, or we can explain at the same time conditionals in geography. If the rainfall decreases, the river shrinks, or comparatives and superlatives in history, science, and geography, or the question forms for inquiry-based learning. The next one is text types and language functions. Students often need to describe process. For example, the water cycle begins when blah blah, or explain cause and effect. For example, due to deforestation, the land becomes dry, or classify and categorize. For example, rivers can be divided into blah blah. Interpret data or diagrams. So our students can write reports, summaries, or reflections. So language demands of accompanying task. Let's see, guys. Here is given some task types. First one, reading a text. So our students should understand the subject, specific vocabulary. They should identify my main ideas. So in order to writing a summary, so our students should know using topic-related vocabularies, correct tense, and cohesive devices. So in order to labeling a diagram, our students should know vocabulary recall or spatial the prepositions. For example, above, next to, behind, let's say. Or in order to organize group discussion or participate group discussion, they should speak fluently. They should use discussion phrases such as I think that, in my view, to my point of view, let's say. In order to give a presentation, our students' pronunciation should be correct. They should utilize public speak language, or the signposting, for example, firstly, finally. In order to solve some problem, our students should explain steps, let's say, by using modal verbs, might, should, let's say, or they should use conditional, right? So, components, key vocabulary, grammar structure, language function, and task describe a diagram of a river. So, what kind of language demand for these components? For example, key vocabulary. So, they should know the source, mouth, tributary. So, erosion, sediment, or meander. So, in order to know the grammar structure, they should know the present simple structure, passive voice. For example, the river is formed by blah blah. So for knowing the language function, so they should focus on describing a process, sequencing events, or explaining cause effect. So in order to do their task, they should focus on the using preposition, sequence connectors, and technical terms. So how do teachers support their students? For example, they can support by explaining pre-teaching vocabulary words. For example, word banks, visuals, word wall. So they are easily improve or catch their eye. For example, the teacher should use the sentence frames or starters. For example, the river begins at, let's say, or providing scaffolding in order to help remember the new explaining the topic. Graphic organizers, glossaries easily help them. Or the teacher should model the language. They should add some oral examples before the task. And so at the end, they should check their understanding. For example, they can ask some comprehension questions. So this is the end of our lesson. See you for the next lesson, guys.